Hi, I'm Chris Cole, president of Chris Cole and Associates, National Medical and Pharmaceutical Sales Recruiters. Wanted to take a few minutes out of each week for the next few weeks to shoot some videos to help people secure employment. With COVID-19 out there right now, it's all hands on deck, and this is one place where I can chip in and help people find jobs and secure employment. So this week we're going to be talking about interview preparation. Interview preparation is probably the least understood part of the interview process. And it's the one with the widest latitude as to strategies to do it. And it's not as cut and dry as, say, something like a resume. A resume is pretty cut and dry. There's some debate as to whether you can do a one page or a multiple page resume. But for the most part, most people know how to write a resume, or at least can find ways to write a resume. Interview preparation, again, there's a lot more latitude. I'm going to talk about some strategies you can implement to increase your chances of securing employment. In my opinion, this is the most important part of the interview process. How your job interview is going to go is going to be very, very dependent upon how you prepare before your interview. As always, my little disclaimer, these are just my opinions. Other recruiters may have different opinions. In no way does using these tips and techniques guarantee you will receive a job offer. I always tell my candidates, you're the quarterback on the field. You make the call. These are just my opinions. They do not guarantee you will get the job, but they may help. There are several different types of interviews, and different companies will use these interview techniques in different ways. Some will start with a phone interview, some will start with a video interview. At some point, traditionally, we've gone to face-to-face interviews, but recently with COVID, sometimes they'll do it entirely virtually interview. So they go in different orders, and the techniques I'm going to share with you, the interview preparation tips I'm going to share with you, will help you prepare for all of these. I will also produce videos regarding each of these types of interviews that I'll post in the future. So you got phone interviews, you got video interviews, you got face-to-face interviews, you have final interviews, and you have ride-alongs. All of them are important, and again, I will address all of these in future videos. I'm in a unique position of watching candidates prepare for interviews, and I can get some indication with a high degree of certainty as to who's going to perform well and who's going to struggle right off the bat when I start talking to them about what they need to do for interview preparation. Some people have this laissez-faire attitude of if it's meant to be, I'll go in there, they'll like me, and when I interview, it'll be a fit. Well, you're probably going to lose out to the person who researches the company and does all the strategies that I've listed in this video. So at a bare minimum, the absolute minimum for interview preparation, research the company. Visit their website, click on the About section, scroll through their website, look at the products, know their product to a point where you can describe it, and if you're in sales, you can actually sell it, because in the interview process, at some point, they may ask you to sell it. And another thing you can do that a lot of other people, if you want to get an edge on your competition, acquire an annual report. Go to a financial investment firm and look and see what the stock researchers say about their company if it's publicly traded. All of these are things that will give you an edge against your competition trying to get this position as well. That's the bare minimum. A lot of people, that's all they're going to do. But the bare minimum is know the company, visit the website, and pull some financials. All right, if you're watching this video, I'm hoping you're not a bare minimum kind of person. Hopefully you'll take it to the next level using these techniques here. Ask yourself, what will the interview be like? Use internet search engines to get a list of potential interview questions for that specific company. You'd be surprised how often, if you go in and put a Google search of XYZ company interview questions commonly asked, you will see a list of questions that were asked on interviews from people who interviewed with the company and posted them. That's good information. That's public information, and make sure you're prepared to answer all of those questions. Look through the interview questions I've listed on my website. If you know someone at the company, ask them if they remember any of the questions from the interview, and ask them if they know the types of questions that might be asked. Read through commonly asked interview questions. So the point here is we're generating a list of interview questions we might be asked so that we can practice answering them. The idea is not to anticipate every question, but rather have a few good stories or sales examples ready to share, which could be used for a number of different questions. So if you have half a dozen stories or examples that you can use in the interview, you may be able to use them interchangeably on several different questions. And be prepared to answer industry-specific questions. Give you an example. I knew a candidate interviewing for a wildlife job, and on the interview, they actually asked this candidate to identify 2 birds by bird calls. So if you're in a specialty area like that, be prepared to demonstrate that you actually have expertise in that particular field. All right, so you've done 2 steps. You've gathered as much information as you can about the company by visiting their website, pulling the financials, and learning about the company. You've learned their product. You've generated several questions that you think could be asked in the interview. Now the time is to practice. Practice, practice, practice. Compose a list of questions and have your friend or significant other ask the questions. Practice this multiple times until you're comfortable, and address areas of concern. Don't sit there and hope they won't ask this one question you're struggling with. Hope is not a good strategy. It's not strategic. Rather, talk to other people about, I'm struggling with this question. How would you answer it? Do you have any suggestions as to how to answer it? And then when you get that question, you'll be prepared. So generate a list of questions and practice, practice, practice. While I'm on the subject of practicing, one pro tip for you. Don't interview for your dream job first. Interview for some other positions first where you can get some practice. That way, when you struggle with certain questions, you can revisit the interview and process the things you struggled with. And after you get 2 or 3 interviews under your belt, then you're ready to interview for your dream job. Really want the job? Want to take your interview to the next level? Record yourself. This is from the basketball coach in me. I've coached basketball, I've coached tennis, I've coached a number of different things. There's nothing more productive in enhancing an athlete's performance than having them watch themselves on video. The same thing is true with interviews. There's a reason professional athletes, speakers, politicians, and many other professionals record themselves. You'll quickly be able to identify where you need improvement. And it's harsh. It's one of those things when you watch yourself on video, it can be brutal. But after watching yourself on video, ask yourself, would you hire that person? And then make the adjustments necessary so that you perform better on your interview. So self-awareness, creating self-awareness is a very, very powerful tool and will help you secure the job. I highly recommend you record yourself. As a matter of fact, if I was working in a college career center, I would absolutely require all of my students coming in to see themselves on video to see how they perform, and then you can identify specific areas where you need to work. Could be body language, could be specific questions, but it makes you self-aware so you can address the issues. All right, here's another pro tip for you, a little additional research. In addition to learning about the company, you should spend some time learning about the hiring manager and possibly even the team. Now, research the manager you're going to interview with. Obviously, you don't want to be stalkerish, don't be a creeper. But it may be appropriate to read articles written about the hiring manager, visit their LinkedIn profile, which is a professional social media platform, review their background, determine any commonalities you may have with them. Often a commonality can be a good way to build rapport during the interview. Do you like the same sports teams? Do you volunteer for the same organizations? Perhaps you can congratulate them on a recent award. or maybe you graduated from the same college. But these are some things you can kind of file in the back of your head for the interview if you want to build some rapport fairly quickly. All right, brag books. This is in the industry I recruit for, medical and pharmaceutical sales. This is the industry standard. Most people have a brag book put together. I actually created a brag book 25 years ago when I was interviewing for my first teaching job. At the time, I put everything I had into a binder inside plastic sleeves that I took with me on the interviews. But it's become the industry standard for medical and pharmaceutical sales. And if it's not the industry standard for your industry, you might want to put one together and find that it gives you an edge. What should be in a brag book? I'm going to put together a video that you might want to watch, but typically what I would recommend is like a 1-inch white 3-ring binder, and then put a bunch of plastic sleeves in it, and each of the plastic sleeves put documents. On mine, the first plastic sleeve has half a dozen copies of my resume. That way, if I'm in an interview and there's multiple managers in there, I'm not caught off guard. I can pull out 3 or 4 copies of my resume and hand them to everybody. You might want to put a 30, 60, 90-day plan in there specific to the company you're interviewing with. Might want to put in year-end stack rankings if your industry has that. Year-end percent to plan if you have that. Letters verifying awards you've won. Newspaper articles, anything that makes you look good. Anytime somebody publishes something that makes you look good, stick it away in your brag book for future interviews. And then the last group in my brag book is performance reviews. I have every manager review I've ever had since I graduated college. They're all in there. Hopefully you've not thrown yours away, but if you have, certainly start saving the ones that you have now. So build yourself a brag book that you can take with you. On a side note, first of all, if you've heard some meows in the background, I apologize. I'm working from home due to COVID. And yes, we have 2 Siamese cats and a Bengal who like to talk a lot. So I apologize for that. You may have heard a few meows in the background. All right. Interview preparation often decides who gets the job. I've seen multiple times over the course of my career, in my opinion, a stronger candidate lose out to a less accomplished candidate, still a very good candidate, but less accomplished, basically because of interview preparation. Interview preparation is the one place that if you are not as strong on paper, don't have as many accomplishments, don't have as much experience, you can overcome a lot of those things by doing a terrific job with interview preparation. If you know you're going up against somebody who's got multiple awards, very accomplished, maybe published author, you can beat them out if you do a great job with interview preparation. I can think of several examples. One example I'm thinking of, I had 2 ladies interviewing for the same position with the same company, and one had significantly more accomplishments and more awards, but she ended up losing and finishing second place to the other candidate because the other candidates did more preparation and asked for more coaching. If you're working with a recruiter, ask that recruiter for coaching. Ask them, what can I do to get better? What can I do to get better? Again, that's the basketball coach in me talking, but it works. It really does. Give you another example, and this is what involves me. I was interviewing for a basketball coaching position years ago at the school I worked for, and I know that they only gave me the interview as a courtesy. I knew a couple of candidates who had interned for Division I programs and had letters from the coaches from those Division I programs and several other things. But I knew going into it that everyone was going to focus on X's and O's. I knew they were going to go in and be like, all right, I'm the best at X's and O's. I'm the best at X's and O's. And I knew that wasn't, I can handle that part of it. I'm still very talented in that part, but that wasn't the place where I had an advantage over them. So when I went in and when I interviewed with them, I pulled out a brag book Showed them some pictures of the teams I've coached in the past. Showed them my record, a few things like that. And then I focused on where I did have a strength over all of those coaches was my experience as a teacher. I pushed where I knew I had a huge advantage, and I told them I'm on campus, and I know that's important for you. So that's an advantage that I had over everybody else. And then the second thing I pushed was I know at the high school level, winning is nice, but it's not the most important thing. I knew the most important thing to them was running a clean program, having a clean program and developing um, great citizens to eventually move on in life and be successful. And that's what I focused on. I refocused the interview, and at the end of it, I was offered the job. I accepted it, and they told me, they go, Chris, we only gave you this as a courtesy interview, but at the end of the day, you showed us in the interview what we really needed. So through preparation and being strategic, I knew what they were looking for, even though they didn't. And I've done that twice. I did it with my first teaching job too, as they said, Chris, we're not really sure what this is going to be. And when I walked into the interview, my fourth interview, I laid it out and I showed them I had written an entire curriculum and said, this is what it's going to be. And they hired me. So your interview preparation is important. Hopefully those are a couple of relevant examples to you. You want to stand out. You want to be different. You don't want to, especially if you're outmatched on X's and O's or performance or experience or anything like that. Show the company what they need. Point out that they may not even be aware of what they need. And then when you interview, pull those things out and you may find the help. All right, hopefully this video has been useful for you. If you liked it, please click the like below and possibly subscribe to my channel. And as other videos come out, you'll be notified about them. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully you find your dream job. Thanks. Bye-bye.